what in the 20s is going
in the
on?
20s,
Think about
yes.
the 20s.
What
baby.
Plenty.
What in the 20s is
I
going
am
on?
here for my 20s, baby.
This is the 20s.
Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Zamam Kize, and this is What's in the 20s, a podcast where you listen to me grow through as baby. On this episode, we're going to be speaking about how you need to stop procrastinating. I am I'm an avid procrastinator. I've always been one all my life, I don't know why. And I started adopting this mindset about 3 months ago where I said to myself, Summer, if I don't do it now, I won't do it later. And when I say that, it's shifted everything for me. If I just tell myself, if I don't do it now, I won't do it later, it just makes me realize that there is no later, because like when later comes, I'm going to be too lazy to do it. It could be as easy. Let me give an example of this, right? If you say to yourself, I'm not going to go to the gym today, I'll go tomorrow. Tomorrow will come, and because you didn't do it yesterday, you've already built that momentum to not do it, right? You've built that momentum to slow down. You've built that energy to say yes to your laziness, to say yes to your not in the mood, you know what I'm saying? To say no to your consistency, to say no to your discipline, to say no to your goals. You start building that muscle that just condones and allows and enables you to move further and further away from what it is that you're trying to do and achieve, And so I say, if I don't do it now, I won't do it later. It's because I know that I'm going to keep if I'm able to give myself an excuse so easily now as to why I don't want to do something, how much more a day later? How much more could I stack my excuses? I'll become a professional. I become so good, at validating why something doesn't need to get done now, validating why something doesn't need my attention now and stuff. And it could be the smallest things, but it's just like, let me delay it, let me just postpone it, let me just, you know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm saying. All of this is like a form of self-sabotage, procrastination. We can look at it many different angles, right? Maybe because remember, this is a task that you're perfectly capable of doing. Going to wash dishes is a task you're perfectly capable of doing. But because maybe you're tired, because maybe there's a movie you want to watch, because maybe there's work you got to do, whatever it is, we keep delaying it. Like, no, let me go see my friends, let me this and that. Before, it's like a week of dishes that have just piled up, that you could have just done after you ate. Like you could have just washed that plate and that bowl or whatever it is after you ate, but because you just kept prolonging. What does it do? It compounds, it stacks up, and before you know it, you have a full kitchen full of dirty dishes that you need to, sort out. You could have cleaned your room a long time ago, but because you kept procrastinating, giving it time, giving it this, now it just gets worse and worse and worse. You don't even know where certain things are because they're laying under a heap of clothes or whatever it is. It's the same with work, right? I would procrastinate doing certain tasks or whatever it is until I'm left with so much pressure and all of that kind of stuff. And it's just like that it compounds, right? Because it's not just the English assignment I need to do. It's now the English and the history assignment that have now come together to stack up against me. And I could have just done it earlier, and then it's like the extramurals that you have afterwards, and then everything just feels like it's too much, right? It gets so overwhelming for you, and sometimes we self-sabotage because of imposter syndrome, right? We feel like we're not good enough for this thing that we're perfectly qualified to do, right? And we delay that thing because we're just like, when you're struggling with the perfectionism and all the rest, it feels like it's never going to get good enough. It's never, like I don't even know what I'm doing, this and this and this. And so we just delay the task because, as I said, it's too overwhelming to embark on it. It's too overwhelming to actually believe that like I am worthy of doing this thing. I am worthy of being in this space and all the rest. And so we just like delay. I don't want to study right now because I'm just like, it's too stressful for me to think about the fact that I have a test. Like something for me, not that I struggle with tests, but there's a lot of anxiety that used to build up for me realizing I have a test to do, even though I knew the answers to the questions and stuff. But it's like when someone says, okay, we're going to be doing a test right now, that immediate, like I would hate when the teacher would be like, yeah, pop quiz or whatever it is, like we're just going to do it, and it just would make me feel so like, because I love the feeling of being prepared. I love the feeling of knowing what's coming and stuff like that. And so even though like I'll be studied and I'll be, prepared and stuff, just that feeling of it, you're going to be tested on something feels so like insane, right? And that's what like I'm talking about with the imposter syndrome too, right? Is that even though you're capable of doing this, even though you're qualified to do this, and you're good enough to do it and stuff like that, you still feel less than. You still feel like, oh my gosh, what is happening? What's going on? And like we self-sabotage, and so we just kind of we leave it for later. Another thing is laziness. I mentioned it briefly earlier. Laziness. Laziness. The spirit of laziness. That was something my mom used to despise. To be called lazy felt like the biggest insult growing up. I hate, ever being called that. And there are people who are completely in like sitting in complete comfort, being called lazy or feeling lazy and stuff like that. But like, I think just hearing that, like in our household, it felt like you can be a lot of things in this world. You could even be a failure, but you cannot be lazy because, I think laziness, So laziness stems from the lack of necessity, right? This is, something that the author, I forgot his name, something Green, the one that wrote The Fault in Our Stars. He was basically just speaking about how we don't feel the pressure, right? This need that we need to get this thing done and stuff. So because we don't really feel like that, we kind of get lazy, we kind of get complacent, we kind of feel like Robert Greene. Sorry, but like you kind of feel like, is this really something that needs to get done now and all the rest? And that's the thing. Once we start to shift and get comfortable and complacent and all the rest, right? It feels like just doing any mundane task is just out of our reach, because it's just like, what did I say earlier? You become so good at making excuses for yourself. You become so good at finding more reasons as to why you shouldn't do something, even though you should be. And I think that laziness makes you so easy to distract. It makes you so, I could feel lazy, knowing I have something ahead, but then I'm like, oh, because I don't want to do it, there's this movie playing, so I'll watch a movie. And then I realize this movie is a part of a trilogy. And I'm like, oh, I can't do it now. I got to watch the next one. I got to watch the next. So I got to complete the whole circle. You become so easy, because when I say you become so complacent when you're lazy, you're so easy to intercept. Your plans are so easy to intercept. And when that happens, anyone and everyone, Noma Inje, can just come in and decide for you what the path is right now, what we're doing with your time. Oh my goodness. Have you ever had your day hijacked? Because have you ever had your day, like, say maybe you saw one friend and then that one friend says, let's go meet up with other people. And then it becomes other people and more people. And then it's like the whole day is gone, because you've just been chilling. That's what, just chilling, hanging around. You weren't even doing anything necessarily productive, but it was like just the idea. And it's not necessarily a bad thing also. Let me say that. It's nice to be able to have quality time with friends and stuff. But like, it's like, when I say you become so easy to intercept, because you're not walking with conviction of you have something to do. You're not standing on business, on like the fact that there's something that you need to get done. There's a task that needs to happen. And when people are able to recognize that with you, they like easy to influence you and manipulate you as to why you should stay another hour and another hour and another hour. And before you know it, you didn't study at all, it's the next day because you just kind of felt so comfortable, being around certain people and stuff. You lose focus when you're lazy, and I think that you also become a lot easy to outdo your work ethic. Say you're busy in a competition or something, and because you allowed laziness to like kind of take over, somebody else can outdo you, can outsmart you, can outwork you, like and then you wonder like, but I'm so good at this thing, how did this happen? But it was like, because you just allowed yourself to shift your post a bit and be a little bit more complacent and stuff like that, things were able to happen that supersede what you could have done, and they're running circles around you, you know what I'm saying? Because you kept procrastinating doing a task, you kept delaying doing something you knew you were meant to be doing, which allowed other people the advantage to take over, other people the advantage to take the lead, other people the advantage to do what you can do and more, and that's like the problem with procrastinating. It also doesn't give you enough time to adjust. When you procrastinate tasks, you submit your first draft because you're out of time. You submit whatever you just put together and you say, this is the best I can do because you don't have enough resources and stuff left for you to keep working on it, to keep adjusting it, to keep adding onto it, to change it. You don't get the time, the luxury of changing and making it better, of improving, right? And developing it even further, developing your thoughts and idea even further, because this is all the time you were given. I'm thinking about, I used to do impromptu public speaking. So how that works is they give you a topic, they give you an allocated time, and then by the end of that time, you have to present that speech in front of everybody. So I think at that time, I think I was in, the first time I did it, I was in grade 6. And the allocated time, I think, was about like 10 to 20 minutes. I had to come up with a whole 5-minute speech and stuff like that. And I had to do research and etc. All of that, put that together and present it in front of like a huge auditorium filled with people, And as well as I did, I was constantly thinking, if I had more time, I could have developed this thought even more. I could have developed this idea. I could have fleshed it out even more. I could have gone in to prove my points and stuff. But that's the thing. It's like when you procrastinate things, it's like you leave it to the last minute. And your first draft of the speech, because that's what it was the first draft of my speech. I just had to, just speak with confidence and like assurity and deliver it as if like this has been like rehearsed many, many times. But that's the thing. It's like, this is the best I can give you in this moment. And I think that's a real issue, is that when we procrastinate tasks, other people are able to do more than, what we know we could have applied if we had just not delayed it. And I think that what happens when we procrastinate is that we delay an inevitable consequence. If you're procrastinating telling the truth to your partner, telling the truth to your parents, telling the truth to your boss, whatever it is, the consequence is coming anyways, but you're so scared, you're like, oh, I don't do it now, I don't do it, I'll do it later, I'll tell her later, I'll do this, whatever, later. That there's this is what's going to happen anyways. And I just don't think you should delay it. I think we should go through it now. We should work through it now. We should talk about it now, because there is going to be a consequence, to whatever it is that we're hiding, to whatever secret it is that we're keeping from them, or whatever it is. And it's just like, because we just delay it. We're just procrastinating, like just kind of leaving ourselves bare and being honest and stuff. And I think we need to get to a place in our lives where, because we accept that there's a consequence, we ready ourselves to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? We armor ourselves to actually just be like, okay, now let's actually, work through it, instead of me. Because what the thing is, the longer you wait, it's not going to change the outcome, if that makes sense. In fact, it could even make it worse. The fact that you've been lying for years, the fact that you've kept this thing for years, or whatever it is, when the person finds out, it could make it so much worse than it would have been if you just kind of, were upfront about it in the beginning. And those are things that those are things that you stand to deal with, right? When we procrastinate. I think that we need to create necessity. Remember what I was saying earlier, is that there's a lack of necessity, and that's why we kind of slip into laziness. We need to create that for ourselves. We need to create a sense of risk. We need to say, if I don't do this, I risk losing my partner. If I don't do this now, I risk losing my job. If I don't do this now, I risk losing credibility with myself. We need to start saying that if I don't wake up at this time that I said I'm going to wake up every single day, I risk having motivation and stuff to continue having a good day and all of that, because I didn't start my day right. I risk waking up on at the wrong side of the bed, and stuff. And it's like, we need to start, if it feels like the world isn't giving us that necessity, that risk, if it feels like life, external factors are not doing that for us, we need to be able to do that for ourselves, so that it prompts us to get tasks done quicker, to get tasks done faster. I think it's important for you to create due dates with yourself. That's something that so this is how I would get away with procrastinating. I would ask say my clients or teacher or whatever it is, when is this due? so that I can just play around with my time and be like, oh, it's only due 3 months from now, whatever it is. Let me just put that, far away and like live my life or whatever it is. And that was always so important for me to ask with any project, with any client that I get or whatever it is, when do you want this by? Because we'll discuss everything. I want this, I want this, I want this. And just because I'm feeling so energized and motivated in the moment, I'm not leaving this meeting to go work on it now. Like, Because then what happens? I get lazy and I get like, I don't need to do it. And then I get imposter syndrome and I get, all the stuff that I said earlier, the self-sabotaging comes in. And so when I say create due dates with yourself, just because you're given a due date when you must submit, create due dates with yourself that by this date, at this time, whatever, I want to at least get the first draft out the way. By this date and this time, whatever, I want to at least be at this place of my development, this place of my progress. I want to see this type of progress. I want to see this type, you know what I'm saying? I think when you're able to do that, you commit to things more. You commit to things better and stuff instead of working off of the other person's due date, because it's also about integrity, work ethic. It's not just about your ability to be consistent and show up and stuff. It's also about your integrity to do the job. It's not even just, am I able to do the job, but am I able to do the job well? How do you feel? Is it just enough for you to say I did the work? Or the fact that how did I do the work? How did I arrive at the destination? How did I get, did I take shortcuts? Did I cheat? Did I this and that? It's important to feel proud of the journey, of the process, of everything that it took for you to land at this point that you're at. And yeah, I think those are things that I'm starting to think about, like the importance of diligence and stuff like that. Like, it's not enough anymore just to get the work done. I would always do enough just to be like, I did the work and I did it right. That's what I felt like. I answered the questions correctly. But did I apply effort? Did I apply myself? Like sometimes I wouldn't even, that feeling of when you're cramming everything you studied, right? Just so you can pass the test and do well. You might even excel in the test and stuff. But then after the test, you completely forget everything you studied. Because you weren't really studying to learn. You were studying to pass. And I did that a lot, like it was just important for me to come back with this job was done well and stuff. But like, if you had to ask me things from grade 8, grade 9, whatever that I learned, I don't know. I can't guarantee that that I know what the section is about. I'd have to reteach myself and relearn and all this stuff, because I know how many tests and exams and stuff I studied the nights before, or hours before on the day. And it's like, you need to get into the habit of just wanting to do things well, of just wanting to apply all of you into something and really give the best of you to something, rather than just a version of you, this kind of product. That's why even with I perform poems, live poetry and stuff, and I think it's not enough for me to have just rehearsed it in the morning or whatever it is and then I go perform it. I think that I need to perform in front of many different groups and audiences. I'll even be I'll call my brother and be like, please come listen to this and stuff before I go present it to people, because I think it's important that I get into the habit of being around people and seeing their reactions to things, feeling it and their energy and stuff, so that by the time it's with more people, I feel more prepared. I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, and I know how to, how to deliver this and stuff. And I think sometimes we just feel like with prepared speeches, I did this in Afrikaans all the time. I would write the speech, but I wouldn't prepare the speech because we had cue cards. So I'd kind of just read it off the cue cards the whole time. And I used to get marked down all the time because it showed that I wasn't prepared. It just showed that I was just reading off of what's down there. But I'm not, because I procrastinated writing the thing and I didn't give my best to it. I think if we constantly remind ourselves what we stand to lose, we're in a better standing with what we're able to give, and that's what I mean when I'm creating necessity and risk and, all of that kind of stuff is if we're constantly telling ourselves that it's not worth getting my marks deducted and stuff like that. It's not worth feeling, that feeling of I could have given more. I hate that feeling. That feeling of this could have been better or whatever it is. It's not worth that. I think we would procrastinate a lot less. And we also need to develop a resilience. We have to develop a resilience for discomfort. And by that is, I mean, when things don't go necessarily the way that you wanted to or whatever, don't stop there. Don't kind of feel then I shouldn't be pursuing this or whatever it is. I think that if you're able to do something over and over, don't let your fears and your failures and whatever it is make you procrastinate certain tasks, right? Because you feel like, as I said, you're not good enough for this, or, the imposter syndrome starts to sink in and stuff like that. If you develop that skin, that resilience and stuff for, oh, I don't know if I can do a task this big, but I'm going to try anyways. That's what we need to do. Like, don't stop at the points where you feel overwhelmed. I get overwhelmed a lot, but I cannot let those emotions be like, I cannot let it overcome, the task I'm being presented with. I feel like if I'm being presented with this task, it means I am good enough to be in it. It means someone sees the value in what I'm doing, and what I'm able to provide into this space and stuff. And so I'm being called to these spaces and stuff like that. And even though I may feel like, oh, why is this happening? I cannot let, I need to start getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. I need to get comfortable with the fact that this might not be, what I'm used to, whatever it is, but like, I'm going to make it work. I can make it work and I will succeed. And I think that if you're able to just reward yourself for these small victories, right? So as I said, even earlier, when you're giving yourself little deadlines and stuff, maybe say, if I'm able to do this by this time, then I get to go hang out with my friends, and I get to go to the movies, then I get to go, whatever it is, I get to eat this or whatever. When you're able to reward small victories, it keeps you motivated, it keeps you wanting to keep going on to the next victory and the next small victory and the next small victory. And before you know it, you've completed a whole task in record time, and you're still able to go back and check and evaluate, etc., etc. And so, yeah, that's like the importance. Like, I think don't just wait, because that's what I would do. I would tell myself, Zama, there's nothing to smile about. The job is not done. Like, as that, famous quotes by Kobe Bryant says. But like, yeah, it always just feel like I can't relax until the project is done. But when you give yourself little milestones to celebrate, to reward yourself with and stuff like that, I think it feels more special. It feels like the journey is a lot more exciting than just rushing towards getting an A on the test. But like the fact that you're able to test yourself on things and test your friends and this and that, like you get to actually develop knowledge and perspective and opinions and all of that. And I think these are all so important. I think life, the sum of your life isn't based off of all the things you hoped to do. It really ends up being what you ended up doing, what you actually did with your life. Not like, oh, I wish I did this. I hope I did this. I hope I get to do this or whatever it is. That's not what your life is going to amount to. It's going to be everything that you actually set out to do, everything that you actually saw come to fruition and saw through, really, all the plans that you saw through. And I think that those are things that are really important to think about and consider. Like, when we procrastinate, it's a lot of untapped potential that we could be just turning into something so great, so big, so all of that. But because we're just not utilizing and making full use of everything that we can be and of time. I think that when we procrastinate, we become arrogant of like how much time we have, that there'll always be time for me to do this. There'll always be time for me to pursue that. There'll always be time to embark on this and stuff. But like, yeah, I think that when you get into the habit of saying, if I don't do it now, I won't do it later, because there is no later, you start really performing as if this is your best shot at it right now. And this is something I'm trying to get into. Like, I'm trying to stop. I'm trying to stop procrastinating. I'm so over it. I'm so over the stress and anxiety it gives me. I'm so over the feeling of pressure. I'm so over, just feeling like I'm not getting things done to the best of my abilities and stuff, because I'm like running out of time and resources and this and that. So yeah, like I'm trying to teach myself that like there is only now. And if I'm saying I'm going to do this today, this is what I'm doing today. And I hope that that's something that you can take along with you too. That if you struggle with laziness, if you struggle with procrastination, all of that kind of stuff, you're able to just tell yourself like, hey, if I don't do it now, I won't do it later. As always, I'm sending my love. Goodbye.
What in the 20s is going
in the 20s?
Think about the 20s.
The 20s,
What
baby.
Plenty. What in the 20s is going here for my 20s, baby? This is the 20s.